update the teacher certification scholarship. Ms. Margaret.
In the spring, in anticipation of not being able to have certified teachers, the board approved paying, hiring, degree people and paying for them to, pursue their certification through iTeach. And the stipend at the time was $4,100. We would reimburse, and they would have to sign a 5-year contract or reimburse us for the money. And we have some of our employees who actually are pursuing a master's degree program such as ULM, and our LSU even. And we want to just offer them, we cannot pay their degree, of course, with those programs, but we want to offer them the same amount of money that we're offering the students who are attending iTeach.
You'll have the same stipulations as far as them staying in our parish also?
Yes, we will have the same certification, same stipulations. They would have to sign a 5-year contract.
And the universities offer a program, dual program to get certification and a master's, where I teach is just the certification. The university program costs more, but we're only going to fund with the I teach. So we make up the difference.
Have a motion? Motion by Mr. Vidal, second by Mr. Fusilier. Let's vote. Motion passed. Item 2C, consider and or recommend action with regard to substitute bus driver pay for school board employees. Mr. Blanchard.
Okay, currently, we have coaches that work out of school that serve as a teacher at the school, and they're being paid on a timesheet. They'll drive the bus for us in the morning or the afternoon because they have a CDL. As you know, we have a shortage of drivers, and some of these coaches will help us out when we're in a bind. And so we're doing it on a timesheet, and it's just difficult to track with all these timesheets. So what we would like to, what I'm proposing to do is that when a teacher drives for us, that we just pay them the regular substitute pay. If they drive in the morning, it's $37.50. If they drive in the afternoon, it's $37.50. If they drive morning and afternoon on a day, it's $75. We're paying them $20 an hour. They're working about two hours, in either direction. So money-wise, you're talking about basically the same amount of money. This is just easier for us to track. Instead of having to submit timesheets, we just get a report from transportation, so it's a little 3 days. And you can pay it for 3 days.
So it's either or.
Right. It's just easier to track, easier for payroll to do, easier for transportation to keep track of.
But Mr. Blanchard, we gotta have a law. If you work more than 40 hours for the same kid, that's time and a half.
But those are exempted employees, they're professionals.
Oh, okay, that's exactly,
Right, it's mostly teachers and coaches, and they're exempt.
so they're salary employees.
Correct, salaried employees.
Exactly.
All right.
I got a question.
Mr. Vidal.
Are we training them how to, start these buses? Because I heard that like, one of the buses, they know how to start it and stuff.
When they go through the process.
The
of
newer
getting-
buses.
When they go through the process of getting their license, their CDL, they have to get certain endorsements that apply specifically to driving a school bus. And part of that is, I call it your pre-flight check, but we've got to make sure all the lights work, check the oil, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they are trained on what they have to do before they run the route, and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So there, so you can weigh in if I'm saying anything incorrect.
Well, the only difference is that on the newer models, there's some safety features that we need to orientate them to. And that's what happened when, I think it was last week, they went to your area and the safety guy didn't know how to go around it. So, yeah, that's quite well taken to be done. We'll have to orient these guys.
And also, when they return the bus is all dirt. We need to do something there.
I've gotten complaints from some of the bus drivers about that. When I've gotten one, I've addressed it. The coaches will use it to go to a basketball game or volleyball game, and they know they're supposed to clean the bus when they're done. So when it's been reported, we've addressed it. I've sent out emails to the principals and to, it's mostly the high school principals.
Right.
Those typically coaches that drive. We will send out additional reminders. We have to clean it when they're done.
Okay.
Motion by Mr. Abear, second by Mr. Vidal. Let's vote. Motion passed. Item 3A. Consider and/or recommend action with regard to increasing market volume and permit fees. Mr. Abear.
Thank you, Mr. Vice. Last meeting, we approved the raise for our DSEC attorneys, and it brought up concerns among some of us as board members that if they're getting a raise, what is our attorney doing? And I think that we ought to pay them this firm equivalent to what they're getting paid, which is $175 an hour. I spoke to Mr. Boyer, and he said that we basically, on average, he can go as low as 135, but then most of his cases is around 150, somewhere in that area. So I think we ought to pay him about the 175, just like what we're doing with Hamilton Steel. But and just to let other people know, other board members know that before Mr. Boyer got on, our workman's comp account was probably heading towards bankrupt. And that was when Mr. Laverne was here. He said that that was one of the best things that we did was get Mr. Boyer, and he attacked that workman's comp. And I'm telling you, if I remember right, we were paying out almost $2 million a year at the time, and we had like $4 million in the account. So we were heading towards bankruptcy, and he put a stop to it because he monitored it a lot better. So it paid for the 175, just that alone, just so that people know, just from the workman's comp case.
I make a motion.
Okay. Motion for 175.
Motion by Ms. Vital to raise the fee to 175.
Ms. Vital, read.
Second by Mr. Dorio. Any more discussion?
He just said he would have made it 200.
I made it 200, which is what I paid my legal attorney.
I have a motion and a second.
I'll make a substitute motion to go to 200.
I need some sugar.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor for $175 per hour. Any more?
I didn't get a substitute motion on
No,
200.
we did not.
All right?
All right, I have a substitute motion on the floor to raise the fee to $200.
Let's vote.
I don't have a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Vital.
I make a motion.
I'd like to make a substitute motion. When we give them 165 between the two, 200 and 175. 165.
165. I have another substitute motion on the floor to raise the fee to $185 an hour. Do I have a second?
I'll go with a second on that.
Second by Mr. Abear.
Let's vote.
Let's vote. Motion passed. Motion to adjourn.
Move.
Motion by Mr. Abear, second by Mr. Stanley. Adjourn.
You can continue, go ahead.
I wanted to, I mean, you have to call him every day.
Hey, but by the way,
I did check on that.
I was gonna say 210.
I pray we just had to pray the pledge of allegiance. We'll go to item number D, announcement and affirmation.
Yeah, I do have a couple of announcements, Mr. President. Last weekend, Cecilia High's band competed in a competition. While the band itself did not place, they do have a couple of band members that placed. Mr. King did not send me the email, but I know the drum major came out first in that competition. I don't know, Ms. Hughes, do you remember who the other person was?
He did not send me the details, unfortunately, I wish he had.
With Cecilia High, I've gone to their band, their little performance at the end of band camp this summer, and they've grown tremendously. They have a very good band, and Mr. King is, if you remember, he borrowed money from the board to purchase uniforms so that you go to parades. He's really making an effort to grow the band. I just wanted to commend him publicly for the work that he's doing. And they're starting to go to competitions, and they're winning some things. I think this is first or second competition. They're already starting to show themselves in place. So just congratulations to him and Cecilia High's band. The next item would be Dr. Dalcourt.
All right.
Okay. We have some iReady awards that need to be handed out to some schools, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Dalcourt.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Ms. Nicole Hamilton, who is our RTI facilitator for the district, and Mr. Bruce Boyd, who is our associate with Curriculum Associates. This is a program that we use to benchmark our students and trying to get our students back on track. So we wanted to celebrate two students. We have a campaign going on, and they're going to tell you what this is all about.
So thank you, Dr. Dalcourt. So my name is Bruce Boyette. I'm sales rep for Curriculum Associates with the iReady program. We have the honor to serve your district with our programs. And so basically, to tell you just a little bit about iReady, what it is, it's a blended learning platform that has an adaptive diagnostic assessment that students take online. They normally take it 3 times a year, at the beginning, middle, the end of the year. Based off that data, it's being an adaptive test, it's able to gauge where students are actually performing, whether above grade level, at grade level, or even below grade level. So it identifies areas of concerns, areas where students need further instruction, identifying students at risk. It plays into an RTI process. But basically, we use that data then to inform instruction with some great reports, some online instruction lessons that students work on. So it's a pretty, it's a great program, supplemental to support your other programs, the other reading and math programs in the district. But what we did was, kids taking diagnostic tests online, it's best to have them motivated. So we found over the years that, like I have 3 kids and kids need to be motivated, right? So we came up with a great campaign for St. Martin Parish for this year, and that's what we passed out. So each month there's a challenge that if the schools meet the challenge, it's a friendly competition between the K-5 schools and the 6-8 schools. So first, for this particular September award, I know it's October, but for September's award, which we're awarding now, it was the lowest number of rush flags on the diagnostics. So when kids take the test, what we really need them to do is give their best effort, because we want good, clean data that then we can utilize, right? But if kids go on and they kind of click, we have some things that automatically tell the teacher that they clicked through the test, so we call them rush flags. And so the first competition between the schools was who had the lowest rush flags, because teachers can do a lot of things to help motivate the kids where there's not rush flags. Everybody with me? So that was the first one. And so we're excited to announce the winners tonight. And the way the competition works is, this is the first award. There'll be a K-5 banner that they're the iReady Super School for the month. And so obviously they'll probably, I don't know what award the kids will get, maybe a dress down day, whatever they decide they're going to do at the schools. But then next month, Ms. Nicole here, we'll be moving that to find out the next winner, move to the next school. So it's a great way to motivate schools, competitions, kids. So we're excited. So tonight, we get to make these awards. So our first winner for K-5 is actually Cecilia Primary School. The favorite time coming up, and the principal is Ms. Danielle Alvarez, and the IRA administrator is Ms. Janine Menard. And, her name too?
Kelly Alexander.
Kelly Alexander, yes. So we've got.
Can we
the,
open the banner and y'all
Yeah,
stretch
y'all come
out
over
and?
here. Y'all come over here. Yep, there we go. Awesome. All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, guys.
Good job.
All right. And then last, but definitely not least, the winner for the 6-8 is Cecilia is rolling tonight. So Cecilia Junior High. Principal Teacher Hawkins at IRA Administrator Deasia Wilson. And I think there's a couple others coming up too.
I have my instructional audition.
Oh,
Very
the whole
good.
team.
I have my instructional audition.
Awesome. I
Y'all
love that.
come this
Dr.
way
White
so
over
we
here in
can
the
get
middle.
a picture of you for the newsletter and the
Absolutely.
Facebook page and everything else.
Can you give us some? Excellent. Awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Next month,
Yes. Next
data
month.
check.
Data check's coming next month. And again, huge congratulations to everybody who played a role in ensuring the students did a great job with their testing this year. And thank you, board. Thank you, Mr. Blanchard. Appreciate it. Y'all have a great day.
That's all I need.
That completes the announcements and acclamation.
Okay, moving on to item E, Southern Strip Employee of the Month.
Okay, our Southern Scripts Employee of the Month this month is Miss Melinda Email. You want to come up, Ms. Melinda? Miss Melinda is the secretary at Stevensville Elementary. The first person that generally greets you at a school is the secretary. So when you walk in at Stevensville, you're always greeted in a professional way with a smiling face and somebody that's willing to help you. Secretaries work very hard. They screen everything for the principal, they deal with all the parents and the students, they deal with the kids when they come there with a runny nose or a tummy ache or anything else. So they're the heart of your school. So Ms. Melinda, congratulations and thank you for your work.
Citizens Blanchard.
Yes, sir.
Item F, presentation by the candidates for office. Now, any individual run for election district? Nope.
Ms. Lindy had told them to be here for 4:30 and we're a little bit ahead of schedule.
All right.
Yeah, let's just keep on going.
Yeah, so we'll come back to item F. Is there any deletion of agenda to the agenda?
One additional point, we do have a few candidates here that are actually running for school board. Can they speak? Sure.
Oh, they can speak as a public hearing.
Okay, so if you want to come up, any of the other candidates who are here.
You can face us, face the audience, just face the audience. You need the mic, no?
Probably not. Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be honest, I did not know that we were allowed the presentations today, so I don't have anything prepared. So I guess I'll just, speak from my heart. So, I've been thinking about running for school board for a while, few years now, but it was just never the right time because my kids were young. This kind of happened all of a sudden for me. I wasn't even thinking about it, and it came up because I still have 2 kids in high school. But then I started thinking, well, parents contact me all the time for help anyway. just because I have good relationships with the schools and I have 4 kids who've all went through school. So why not just try to use that in a more official and a more helpful way? I've always been an advocate for teachers and children. Giving children the education that they deserve as individuals. They're all born with particular gifts and a particular purpose. And I feel like it's our job to make sure the policies we make and the decisions we make help those children to live out the purpose that they were created for. And so, like I said, I didn't have anything prepared, but can I?
What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Tara. My name is Tara Seymour. My name is Tara Seymour. I'm running
What
in
district you
District
running?
9.
District 9.
District 9, and I am from Cecilia. I'm currently a realtor specializing in the St. Martin Parish area. So my kids did attend Bridge primary at the beginning, so I had the privilege of working with both, both school districts. So I would appreciate you guys' support. We have 3 great candidates, and it's a blessing to have 3 people to choose from. And I just hope that if I do get to serve as your school board representative, you feel free to contact me, you feel free to talk to me, and any questions you have, just give me a call.
Is there any other candidates who wish to speak?
That's it. Is there any deletion, addition? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not on the agenda.
What's
Is
your,
that okay?
what's your running for?
School board,
Okay,
District 9 School Board.
come on up here.
Thank you for having me. My name is Cheryl Knott. And like I said, I'm running for a school board representative for District 9. I'm a 33-year alumni with Cecilia Primary at the same school. I work with the summer camp program for Elena Boye. I run her summer camp. The children are a blessing to me. I do not have any children in the school system, but I work with all the children from the whole parish all summer long. Enjoy talking to anybody that needs to talk to me. I will be mailing cards out to every household in the community in District 9, and I ask for your support. If you have any questions, feel free to call me anytime. I also have an email address on the card, and I'll also have my phone number. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, you're nervous.
I'm Marlon Dozier, and I'm running for District 9 School Board also. And I've had quite a few people ask me, why am I running? Well, that's a loaded question. But as a single parent, at one time, I raised 3 kids, a 15, a 13, and a 6-year-old as a single parent. And I work tirelessly at home and at work, but it takes, to me, in my mind, the parents at home has got to get involved with the kids. I mean, we want to blame every one of these guys up here, things that go on at school, things, and really, it starts at home. But I worked with my kids. I got them all graduated. Today I have one that's a paralegal. I have another one that's in business and financing. I have another one that's going back to college as a radiologist. It didn't come cheap, took a lot of work. But thank God, when they were younger, they were doing real poor in school. And I had a man come up to me and says, hey, why don't we put them with the advanced honors class? I said, they're struggling with these kids, just having a hard time in the lower classes. But we did, and thank God that he had the foresight to see that my kids, the reason they wasn't learning like they wasn't challenged. And because they were challenged, they became better students in school. And that's a big learning curve for me as a single parent, because there's 3 girls I raised. So, it wasn't just the home challenges, it's the educational challenges and everything else that went along with that. But we got through it. And the more I thought about it, the more I look at these kids today, the struggles they have, single parents and all this other stuff. I help a lot of kids in the 4-H department. I help kids in the church department. A lot of troubled kids come through there, and I work with them. So that's the reason why I'm running, is because I want to make a difference in a kid's life. And if elected, I'll do my best to do it. And I will stand by my word. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to call. And I'll be more than happy to stand up and help as much as I can. And thank y'all for your support.
I have to make one comment pertaining to this young man's. It was about those children weren't challenged, and I'm one that believes in ability, if you don't know. And I've had debates with this a lot, and what ability group is, the A kids with your A kids, B, C, of course, we don't go by that route anymore. Until you get to college prep, it's a little bit different. But Ms. Johnson, don't try to remember too much about me as a student, because I was one that, I have to agree with him, that when I was with the B kids, I was very talkative. Don't want my kids to know that, but that's okay. But when I got with the A kids, it was a challenge, and you have to pay attention. And that's my main concern, because one year when I was with the B kids, no, I can't call them B kids, we had one student in the back of the class, he cut up the whole time. I could never figure out why. Well, he was an F student, and he was too embarrassed to be around the other kids for that reason. So that's why I'm a strong believer in ability grouping. And I know it was not on the agenda, but I just had to say my piece when he brought that up. It just clicked. Finish.
All right, any more comments? All right, we'll move on to the next item. The consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that needs to be removed to discuss?
Just one comment is that everybody ought to support item 2C with the St. Jude's Hospital. Other than that, move to accept this consent agenda.
Okay. That's a motion and a second. Vote. There any nays? That motion carried. Item 4, Finance Committee recommendation. We can take up all the items from A to D.
Move to accept.
Motion by Mr. Abad, second by Mr. Forte. Vote. There any nays? Then motion carried. New business. Item A, consider approve Head Start Policy Council recommendation. PC minutes from 09/26/22, St. Martin Parish Public Library. Memorandum Understanding Lion Club, new hire recommendation for St. Martin Head Start Early Start Center Manager, Ms. Angel.
Does anybody have any questions? This is normal things that are usually on our monthly meetings.
Motion by Mr. Forte, second by Ms. Vito. Vote. Any nays? The motion carried. Item B, consider approved memorandum understanding between Volunteer of America and St. Martin Parish Early Childhood Network. That's all y'all, let's do it again.
Yeah, this is their resource and referral agency, which is the Volunteers of America. It's something the state recommends and is a requirement for all of the early childhood networks. So we're just asking for approval to get into the memorandum of understanding.
Motion by Mr. Vito, second by Mr. Dorry. Vote. Any nays? The motion carries. Consider approve hiring an air conditioning repair technician prior to the upcoming retirement of one of the current technicians. Mr. Blanchard.
Okay, we have openings or positions for 3 air conditioning technicians. We currently have 2 on staff, so we were advertising to fill the 3rd one. We've advertised several times and not had applicants. This time we have 2 applicants. I'd like to hire them both right now because we have another one of our technicians who's retiring in January. And I feel like if we let this guy go right now, I might not be able to get him in January.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Clay, second by Mr. Vito. Vote. Any nays? And motion carries. Item D, consider approve hiring a bookkeeper in sales tax department 1 month prior to the retirement of the current bookkeeper.
Basically the same item. We have somebody retiring November 1. I'm just requesting permission to advertise and get somebody in there as soon as I can. That person's actually out on leave right now. So
Move to accept.
Second. Motion by Mr. Evans, second by Mr. Forte. Vote. No nays, motion carried. Item E is, I'm reading on this, the time, something added to this. Okay, and, first is Erica Clark.
Ms. Clark pulled her request to speak. There's another person.
Okay,
Should be a second page to it.
And,
Amy Jones.
all right. Is she there?
Ms. Johannes.
Johannes. And you, okay, go ahead.
Right here?
you need a microphone?
You got it.
Okay.
5 minutes.
We were bringing up the bullying situation at schools. Also, the extra amount of threats that are coming along. We would like to see some extra type of efforts to where the kids can bring forth their concerns, not have to worry about being exposed and extra bullying being drawn towards them. I have a few ideas, like putting an anonymous mailbox or something to where the kids can write their concerns, put it in the slot, get it looked at by the school officials. That way the school officials can do a little bit more something to where kids aren't scared to go to school and can feel a little bit more safer. Also, some of the parents are asking that from the threats, they are concerned about their kids going to school. Some of them want to go virtual. Some of them want their kids to be excused in the event of keeping their kids safe at home. I don't know what else to say.
I don't know what else to say myself.
What school you talking about?
All the schools. This is in general. It's not pointing at any particular body. It's not pointing at any particular school because it's happening at all levels.
They have this every day.
This afternoon, one of our little babysitter kids got off the bus and informed us of something that she heard at school. If y'all want me to mention it here, I can.
You can't mention your names.
Huh?
No names.
No, I'm not saying any names. But she was told from one of her peers at school in her class in 3rd grade that there was going to be intruders at Tesh tomorrow. She heard it from another student. So I don't know.
Students exaggerate.
Yes, they do.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Johannes, okay, you're related to Chris?
Yes,
Oh, sister?
my brother.
Okay.
And Georgia Alcan is my grandma.
Right, I remember that. And I remember your mom. I coached Chris in Little League football.
Right.
He and my son, that's why I know. And you,
Gotcha.
I'm actually just school board member, just to let you know.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, sir.
The reason why I'm gonna speak at first of all, I'm not a social media buff.
Right.
I don't get into that, but a lot of the things that went on with that last incident is what people ought to realize is those people on social media, they're the bullies. That's the ones that started things that really never occurred. And I'm not gonna take something away from Mr. Blanchard because
Right.
he's gonna, but you're asking for us to, and I asked Ms. Adrian, how many times do we come across? We're probably gonna come across at least 4 or 5 every week is what you're asking.
Right.
I'm talking parish-wide.
Right.
I'm talking just in City. So it's kind of hard to diffuse what's true and what's not true.
Right. That,
Now.
understand where you're coming from.
And all I'm going to speak about is at Cecilia High School. When my wife is on this, I call it jump on social media and all, and she brought it to my attention. I said, Mark, I said, if you think that I'm worried about across the street, I guarantee you one thing, that Nicole and staff has it under control, and they were way ahead of everybody else. And it got blown out of proportion. Now, I'm not saying things don't happen.
right, understandable.
Definitely not saying that. But if we had to, some people even ask, well, we get a robocall for this, we get a robocall for that. We kept on sending out robocalls for everything. One parent wanted to go and walk into every classroom. You imagine what kind of disruption you
Yeah,
have there?
no, we can't be doing all
And I know this
that.
is, but it's just to say, we have to keep that school safe.
Right.
And if there was anything, and I'm gonna just use Miss Hughes as an example, she's got 2 kids on that campus. You don't think she's trying to make the school safe?
Right.
But again, it goes back to lies.
Well,
Nothing
not only
more than lies.
that, not only that, but some of us didn't hear it until kids came home from school and we were hearing it from them. Well, the kids are at school and they see more than what we do. So when the kids start coming to us and saying, we're scared to go to school and we don't want to go to school and they're not doing anything about it, that's why we're here, to be the voice for the children.
And listen, I appreciate you being a concerned parent. Trust me, we need more concerned parents. Just like the young man said a while ago, we don't have enough parents involved. But when you have these people on social media that are gonna just put things, and then I'm watching the news last night and they say we had a hit list. I want that newsman to come and show me that hit list. So in other words, none.
Yeah,
But,
they're watching that too.
you know, then it is what it is. I don't care who cares what I say. I'm just speaking the truth and from the heart. And I feel, listen, I have no kids in school right now, but they all went through Cecilia High School.
I went to the
You went there, okay? You might even be some of the age of my daughters or anything, I don't know, but anyway. One thing that we do is, and I'm talking about staff, they provide state. We have resource officers at the high schools, okay? Listen, it's not perfect, but they're trying, and I guarantee you they're trying, and they're trying to, the one thing that I wish we could monitor a lot better is bullying. But
It's a lot of bullying.
okay.
I was-
I know how to handle it on my own in my house.
Right?
But you go do that in the public and then all of a sudden you.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, you're the worst person on the face of this earth. But, and listen, again, I compliment you for coming up, but at the same time, we can't, first of all, you gotta worry about an individual's privacy and things of that nature, because what if it was true? Then you bringing out things just like we saw on the news last night. Yeah, they did have a shooting in Cecilia, it had nothing to do with school.
Right.
Okay, but it is what it is. We can only control so much, because if we want our staff, just like this DSEG case, we got our staff worried about this DSEG case and we're not worried about it. We are worried about educating our children, but just think if we didn't have to spend all our time on that. If we could just focus on educating our kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're trying to make it to where they are not worried about everything else going on. They can focus on their schoolwork. Because this is driving their minds in different directions, and it's taking away from them being able to focus on their schoolwork.
think some of the kids are using it as an excuse too, because you had some of them, they looked at it as a free day. That's all I'm saying.
I get where you're coming from on that one.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right now. I'm sorry.
But we really have to take it serious,
Oh, we taking it serious.
because.
Nobody did
you know,
not take it not serious.
Yeah, we do. And what she's saying, that's a good idea. Have a box. Sometimes those children.
They're scared to speak
scared
up.
to talk. So have a little box, let them write.
Yeah, you put a suggestion box in every.
Yeah, that's good. Because, yeah, but it's not at every school. That's what she's suggesting. We need to do. It's serious. You know, copycat.
I have a little
It's serious.
presentation. I have a little presentation I'm gonna do when you did it. Mr. Johansson, I'm not gonna go over into the beginning.
Okay.
You probably got the 30 seconds left.
Another thing is some of the kids are wanting to go virtual. They're not wanting to not keep going to school and stuff. They just want to switch from regular classes back to virtual. Is there a way to where some of the students can do that?
She wanted to know if they had children that wanted to switch just to virtual school. Right now, they're in regular classes, they want to switch to virtual.
Parents have a right to switch to virtual. You can request to switch to virtual if your child's in good standing, the policy allows it.
Okay.
If the student begins to fail or is not completing the work on schedule, then they're put back in
Right.
school.
Okay, so do I go through the school to do that or through the school board?
You have to wait till the 9 weeks.
The 9 weeks.
And 9 weeks, do it at the end of the 9 weeks, and, you can go to the school, to the counselor, and request to be placed on virtual, and then there's a process from there. You sign up, you will meet with the virtual facilitators in Woodbridge. They will walk you through how everything works and how to get help, how to take the test.
Okay,
Okay.
and I guess that's about it.
Thank you, Ms. Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a little presentation I'm gonna do on, what goes along with this, realizing that I think my PowerPoint I may have saved the old version and not the new version. So what I'm gonna discuss tonight pertains specifically to what happened in Cecilia last week with the threats, with all the stuff on social media, with everything that took place. In the last few weeks, you've had threats, active shooter threats, bomb threats, all over the place. Vermilion Parish had, I think, 3 of them 2 weeks ago. Iberia Parish had some. We didn't have a threat last week, but we had something that blew up into what everybody thought was a threat. Lafayette Parish had one on Monday. That was an actual threat where there were arrests. And yesterday, I'm told there was one at Beauchesne, possibly one again today. So when there's an incident at school, some of you may have seen all the stuff that took place on Facebook regarding Cecilia last week. And Ms. Yuze and myself and the staff were blasted because we didn't release a statement on certain things. And, you know, you have to establish that there's a threat before you release a statement. Secondly, there's certain things we can release whenever there's an incident at school, whether it's a bomb threat or a threat, an active shooter threat, or whether there's a disciplinary issue, a fight, or anything else in a school. We cannot release a student's grades, a student's attendance record, or a student's disciplinary record to parents. And what happened last week is people were getting all over Facebook, making assumptions, coming into the school, fussing with Ms. Yuze and I in some cases, coming in and acting respectfully and getting information and accepting that information and leaving. In other cases, coming in, meeting with us, being very difficult, so to speak. And then no matter what we said, it wasn't enough. Some of the people we met with came in and nothing short of me telling them exactly what they wanted to hear happened to the student that pleased them. Okay, so I think my PowerPoint presentation up there is going to be a little different than the one I have here. If you go to the next. Okay, on Tuesday evening, I received an email, and I've removed all the names. I've got Facebook posts up there, but I removed all the names. I get this email. My godchild attends Cecilia High, and this has my concerns. Do you know if it's been addressed? And you can see this is on Cecilia Community Watch. Okay, now Up there, it talks about threats made with kids' names, rest in peace, all kind of other stuff. There's a whole bunch of text in there about maybe what should happen. There is a comment in there about, I get calls when my child is tardy, I get calls when my child breaks a rule, has a cell phone, whatever. That is correct. When your child has a disciplinary issue or makes an F or is late for school, we are going to call you. We're not going to call everybody else. Okay? Nobody else is going to know what your child's grade is or that they were late for school. Okay, so this person has a point. We do that, but we're not going to call and tell them about the discipline of another child. Okay, next slide. Okay, all right. This is my response to the person. Wednesday morning, I was at work for about 6:40, 7:45. I drove to Cecilia. I see my response. I went to the high school this morning, and they were in the process of investigating this incident. They were made aware of it late yesterday. That is the principal I'm talking about. She began investigating this morning. When I walked into her office, I showed her the email on my phone. She said, Mr. Blanchard, that's what I'm looking into. She had a kid sitting there writing a statement. I appreciate you letting me know so I can check into it. Unfortunately, sometimes things like this end up on Facebook before anyone at the school is made aware. Ms. Hughes is going to keep me posted, so on. This is the response I got from the parent. This is how an issue is supposed to be handled. You contact somebody at school, I give you a report that we are aware of it and we're investigating. Basically, that's all I can say. And that, any reasonable person's going to understand that's a private record. The school knows they're doing what they're supposed to do. Okay, next slide. Okay, now we come to the Facebook stuff. Okay. This is a post that was on Facebook. By the way, you have Cecilia Community Watch. A lot of stuff gets posted on there. But sometimes the administrator of Cecilia Community Watch takes things down if they're inappropriate. So now this community is saying, well, okay, which was started, I think, in relation to the incident last week. This is actually some good advice and another way you can handle it. When there's an incident at school, if your child has a problem, if he's being bullied or anything like that, you got a question about something that happened on the bus, you can contact the school. Okay, ask to speak to someone at school that handles those things, the principal, the assistant principal. If for some reason either you're not happy with the answer or nobody calls you back, then you can call the central office. Now, when you call the central office, typically what's going to happen is Ms. Wendy or Ms. Tara or Ms. Bridget is going to ask, what is the nature of your concern? And they'll direct you to the correct department. If your question is about transportation, they'll refer you to Ms. Tina. If it's about attendance or discipline, you'll go to Mr. Bononi, okay, and so on. If they come directly to me, if you haven't gone to the principal and you haven't gone to them, and you come directly to me, I'm gonna have to either go to the principal or go to them and, find out what happened. So go to them first, they may be able to answer your concerns. If you're not happy, you don't get the answers you want or need or think are appropriate, you can always come back and speak to me, okay? And Ms. Wendy's gonna ask, did you talk to the principal? Did you talk to the appropriate supervisor? If the answer is a yes, then she's gonna give me a message and I'll call you back. Or if I'm at my desk, she'll put you through. If you're not happy with any of us, this person happened to mention Mr. Knott, but you can call your board member. Whoever your board member is, there's 10 of them, go to the website, the phone number is on it, okay? So, actually, yeah, that's not a bad email right there, except, next slide. All right, this is the same Facebook post, okay? In today's world, we must take all threats seriously, and we do. As parents, you should remain united to ensure that an alternative placement is made for the student who made the threats. What I have a problem with is when people get on Facebook and start telling us what we need to do with somebody else's kid without knowing the facts, okay? So we have a lot of this kind of stuff going on Facebook. In 32 years, I can count on one hand and have a few fingers left of the adults I've raised my voice with. And I added a finger last week because I lost it. So I do have a temper, so I gotta be careful. I reserve what I say. When people call and ask us about an incident at school, there are certain things we can say. Mostly it's gonna be, we're aware of it, we're investigating it, we're following policy. So Okay, here's I kind of mentioned this one already, but if you look at it, they're making a lot of assumptions here about what happened with this child, what happened with this incident, okay? And again, referring to the fact that we call them for everything, but again, we're gonna call you for your child, not for somebody else's child, okay? In this particular case, I'm gonna give you some facts tonight because the student involved, his parents gave me permission to share a few things. And I'll tell you the reason why at the end, okay? There was a list, there was a sheet of paper the young man had written. He had some names on one side and a poem on the other. Nowhere on that sheet of paper, nowhere in that poem was there ever a threat to do harm to anyone. Okay? He wrote a list, he's a child that's largely to himself. He wrote a list with some names on it. The first list, there are some names on it with RIP, which was a concern, and if you followed anything on Facebook, you saw that all over the place. Okay? The first name is Binks. On the first list that he made, there was a name Binks. Ms. Uze, do you have a student at Cecilia High named Binks?
I do not.
Okay. Binks is the young man's pet. His pet died a few weeks ago, so that's the nature of that name on that list with RIP next to it. He dropped his list, kids picked it up, started passing it around. Somebody with some common sense took it and gave it to one of the teachers, who then, took it and brought it to an administrator. Okay. Now, when his list turned up missing, he rewrote his list and his poem. The second list had 3 names on it with RIP on it. The second name is Jai. Ms. Uze, who is Jai? Last year, Mr. Jai passed away suddenly in the spring. He was a very well-known bus driver in the Cecilia area, drove for many athletic functions, field trips. He cooked for school functions. He did it at all of the schools in Cecilia. He was this young man's bus driver. He must have been nice to him, made an impression on him. Jai was like that, big old teddy bear. So, the young man had that name on it with RIP. The last name I didn't put up there because it is the name of a juvenile. The student does not attend school in Cecilia. He was friends with the young man and moved away a few years ago, and he misses his friend. Okay. Now, during the course of meeting with parents, every parent, not every parent, but many of the parents that came into the office to meet with Ms. Uze and I told us, so-and-so called me and told me my child's name was on the list with RIP next to it. Okay. There were 3 names, and I just told you who they are. So a lot of what happens with students, they hear things, they see things, and they take it, and it spreads like wildfire. In this case right here, adults took that, put it on Facebook, and it blew up even more. Okay? This is kind of some of the stuff that what happened on Facebook. I could be up here literally for hours putting Facebook posts, because there were so many. What's going on? This is the 3rd post I see about it. What's going on? What's going on? Student is threatening students to Cecilia to shoot the school. Okay. This is a Snapchat post I received. Somebody sent me on Thursday morning. There's a couple of things in here that are really significant. If you go to Cecilia High, don't go to school Friday. I repeat, do not go to school Friday. They say the thing that's blacked out is the student's name. Somebody put his name up there on Snapchat. Okay. Told his friends not to go to school Friday, so you know what that means. Also, you will be excused and you don't have to make up the work for the day. Okay. I don't find that, I know it's kind of funny the way it came out, but I really don't find that amusing because I'm not excusing anybody for that. I've told the teachers and the principals, somebody missed school on Friday or today or whatever with any of those threats, you let them make up the work and get 100% credit, but I am not excusing it. Okay? The real difference is if somebody misses a lot of school and they go over 20 days, that's where the excuse comes in. People are genuinely scared about this and worried, so I don't want them penalized academically. But I'm also not giving into this kind of stuff starting at schools and people using it to miss school. Okay? Now, Ms. Uze and I ran this rabbit for 2.5 days at the end of last week. Okay, you see that statement? They told us that his friend said not to go to school. I never could find out who they were, and I never could find out who his friends were. We called the kid in, they told us, he said, well, who told you that? Well, my friend said, they said, which one of his friends told us he did this? Nobody could give us the name of someone who actually heard this particular student make a threat. Okay? And that's the thing. For law enforcement to be able to do something, to treat it as a criminal offense, you have to determine a threat. You can't, in this country, we don't arrest people or do things to people based on this. We might do that in China or Russia, but we don't do it here. Okay, so this whole thing last week, it's largely because of this type of thing. After going through a dozen, 12, or 15 kids and hearing the same thing and not being able to get a name, we contacted his parents. Ms. Yuse and I met with him 2 or 3 times last week, and he tell us the names of some of his friends. Call him in, get statements. Nobody heard him say anything about hurting himself, anybody else. Nobody heard him say anything about shooting up the school on Friday, nothing. Okay? Now, his parents and I have had a discussion that if something changes and I get a different piece of information, then I have to act on that. But as of right now, I don't have a single piece of information that verifies that. Okay? Now, I'm going to go through a few other things that were put on Facebook. I'm not sharing everything in the case. I asked his parents to give me permission to share a few things, and that's what I'm going to stick to. Okay. If they would do what they're supposed to, it would not get out of hand. But waiting until it does makes it worse. Threatening to kill someone is serious. Again, threatening to kill someone. This is an adult on Facebook talking about somebody else's child and what they think happened. Okay. Saying he is watched or walks the halls alone, and I believe my son who picks up my daughter this afternoon and witnessed it. But he's being watched, and the bullies he has worried about got no consequences. Okay, so during the course of last week, we had Facebook posts and people coming to us telling us, oh, he's at school. He's in in-school suspension. The sheriff's department's escorting him from class to class. One Facebook post said he had 2 deputies doing that. Another one said he had 3. Okay. In reality, the school was not at school on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Okay. As soon as Ms. Yuse began her investigation, the parents were notified. They did what they had to do and what parents are supposed to do in a case like this. Okay. He was not there on Friday. He was not in school. He was not being escorted by deputies. I was there. A bunch of my staff members were there. So again, everything on Facebook is true. So here's a conversation between 2 people. Part of it appears to kind of be defending the child, or what he may have done. But notice at the top, people started tagging Channel 10. Okay, so now, by the way, I forgot to mention it earlier, that Snapchat post had the young man's name on it, the student's name. But an adult in Cecilia, at least one, put his name on Facebook. Okay, named him. I went back to try to get a screenshot of that, and by then it had been taken down. It said post removed. Okay, so, but tag Channel 10. Okay, so, now not only does the whole community know about it, but Channel 10 knows it, puts it all over the place. Okay, here's another one tagged by Channel 10. Okay, will the football team be punished for bullying this child? So now the football team's guilty. Okay. In speaking to his parents, they told me, I asked them some questions about what may have happened, and they said, yeah, there's a couple of names of football players that came up that may have done things to the child, but not the entire team. And I can tell you, when Ms. Yuse and I were meeting with parents last week, there's a parent that came in and told us, the child plays football, something happened in a game, and he was being teased for it. She said, I called Coach Skanes, he took care of it that day. The school staff does not stand there and allow students to be bullied just for the heck of it. If they see it, they try to stop it. Now, kids joke around all the time. Sometimes it's hard to tell one thing from the other. The state legislature passed a law a few years ago that defines exactly what bullying is. So parents get mad at us sometimes, but we have to follow that law. If one kid tells another kid something or is picking and it's reported and you address it and it stops, that's not defined as bullying. If you address it and it doesn't stop and the kid continues to pick, then that's bullying, and there's laws and policies we have to follow that dictate what you do. The other thing we get a lot is, today I'll pass by Mr. Wilson, I tell him something, I don't like his shoes or whatever, I think he's stupid or whatever. And I never tell him anything again in my life. What I've said is hurtful, but that's not bullying. Next week, somebody else passes by and tells him something else. It's a different person that tells him that, okay, that's two people being ugly, but he's not being bullied because it's not the same person doing it over and over again, okay? I agree with having a way of reporting bullying, okay? The issue is doing things anonymously, something, how do you know who to call in, how to address it? Try to find somebody they trust, maybe go and report it. As far as for reporting somebody else doing something, doing that anonymously is really difficult. It kind of goes back to that Facebook post or that Snapchat I showed earlier with, you know, if the person doesn't step forward and tell you, I saw so-and-so do this, and write a statement to indicate it so that you can properly investigate it and get enough facts and information to take action on it. An anonymous tip on something might tip you off that something's going on, but it doesn't give you what you need to take action on it. We don't take one person's word against another and suspend or recommend for expulsion or do anything like that. You have to have a little bit more evidence than that, because if I decide I don't like Mr. Wilson, I will see that he did something wrong, and they expel him for it, it's my word against his, unless somebody saw it or there's another witness. So, but here, you know, people are making a lot of assumptions, and that's what got everything all excited last week, okay? There was never a written threat determined. There was never any one person that stepped forward and said, I heard him say a threat, okay? So we got blasted, the sheriff's office got blasted. I had another thing up there, but I took it off. When I saved it, it was on the newer presentation. But in my closing comments, you know, looking at things on Facebook, especially, and I'm going to speak about the city because that's the community I'm from, probably everywhere else, but, you know, somebody showed me a Facebook post.
I'm going to talk about it, you from the city.
Somebody showed me a Facebook post a couple of years ago on one of these community pages, and it said, the ambulance that just passed through Cecilia, and it said, the ambulance just drove by. Can you tell me where they're going? If you know where the ambulance is going, post it. Now, you know, I think you need more to do if you gotta sit there and watch where the ambulance is going, okay? So, this Facebook stuff is really kind of getting out of hand with some people. You know, people that put stuff on Facebook, put the child's name, talked about what discipline he may have gotten or what threats he may have made and all this other stuff. Put yourself in his shoes or in his parents' shoes. How would you feel? And I really come speaking to the choir because a lot of the people that are doing it are not here tonight. But how would you feel if it was your child? Because it could be. All that has to happen is somebody's got to start a rumor and it's going to end up here. Okay? So just keep that in mind. When you spit up in the air, sooner or later it comes back down. Okay? Everybody makes mistakes. Okay? We have accidents. Sometimes you just have the bad luck of being in the wrong place at the wrong time and being an innocent bystander. And you can end up just like all that stuff you saw earlier. Okay? Bullying. We talk about bullying, the kids bullying and stuff like that. You want to see some real bullying? Go to Facebook. Okay? People attack each other on Facebook. They'll obviously name another person's child on Facebook. They'll call each other names. They'll curse. They'll do all kinds of stuff. I don't have Facebook. I guess I got enough to do. I don't have to spend my time on that. But if people have shown me stuff, they will attack each other. They'll attack the school board. They'll attack the sheriff's office. They'll attack anybody who does something that they disagree with. Okay? My closing comments, you know, deal more with the administration of the school. We have 15 regular schools in the district. We have a career center and we have an alternative school in St. Martinville. We have 17 good principals. Okay? They are all concerned about safety at the school, at their site. Many of these people have their own children or relatives at the school. Cecilia High I'm gonna speak about Miss Yuze for a minute. Out of all 17 principals, she is probably the person that worries more than anybody else. She is more anal than anybody else. She will call them, and I'm saying that as a compliment in this context, not as a criticism. She's called me multiple times and said, Mr. Blanchard, I did this, I don't know if I did it right. She works herself up trying to make sure what she did is right. Okay. She has her own 2 sons attending school at Cecilia High. And again, I'm speaking a little bit to the choir, but it's based on what she and I were subjected to last week, because I was there almost every day with her, not all day, but for a lot of it. I dealt with a lot of parents too. Her 2 sons are students at Cecilia High. They walk the halls every day, they come to school, and they're no different than any other kid. They're not given any special treatment. I don't see them in special classes. They don't sit in her office all day. We have at least 2 other faculty members at Cecilia High that have students, their own children that are students there. Okay. My sister works there. My niece goes to school there. Got a bunch of little boys in the neighborhood where I live that grew up in my feet, following me around in the pasture on my farm. That go to school there now. So some of these people that came and talked to us last week were so very ugly about it, as though we just didn't care, we were sweeping it under the rug. You know, it was pretty frustrating, which is one of the reasons I lost my patience and raised my voice. It was some of the things we were told were just completely uncalled for. You know, when you stop and you think about a situation like that, and any one of the administrators in our schools, myself, my staff, people that work for us, Sunday when I was over here working at the office, it dawned on me, it's like, what do people think? You know, like, what do I have to gain, or Nicole Yuze, or Louis Blanchard, or any other principal here in the room have to gain by sweeping something like this under the rug? There's this great, I call it the conspiracy rainbow. A big conspiracy rainbow put out there, and where's the pot of gold at the end? What exactly are we expected to gain, or her expected to gain from that? Okay? It was just terribly frustrating. So the message is, be careful what you believe. If you have a question or a concern, go about addressing it the right way. Contact the school, go through the steps. If you're not happy with the school, come to our office. If you're not happy with us, call your school board member. Okay. The last comment I'm gonna make, and the young man's parents are here tonight. The other thing they asked me to share is, you know, he's not gonna be back at Cecilia High, probably not for the rest of the year. And not because he's banned from the school, okay? More because they are concerned about how people are gonna treat him when he goes back. I can hear it right now. If he goes back to school in 6 months or whatever, what's gonna be on Facebook about it? Okay? That is really unfair. You wanna see some bullying? Go to Facebook. You wanna talk about how we should talk to our children? Maybe some of those people on Facebook need to go to the bathroom and look in the mirror and talk to themselves about their activities on Facebook.
And their kids, their own kids, because that's where a lot of your problems is. These people, what they need to do is go on Facebook and apologize to this young man, is what they need to do. And listen, like now, I'm from Cecilia, you need to go back out, and again, probably none of it affects none of y'all, but hopefully it gets out to the public that how mistreated that young man was. And it makes no sense whatsoever. And I want to thank Mr. Blanchard for this. This is show not only Mr. but instead of being part of the problem, be part of the solution, guys. And again, probably everybody in here is concerned. So if you can, just relay that out to the negative people, which we have a lot of, and too many of them.
Well said.
And thank you, Mr. Al, because they kept calling me and asking me what they're gonna do with the child in Cecilia.
I'm not stating everything
You should have called me, I would tell you that.
I didn't call you.
Because I
Call
tell
Mr.
them,
Blanchard.
I'm at the answer point. And they'll never call you back again.
As I stated earlier, I haven't released everything about what took place.
I can leave mine out.
I give you the call.
Just call Mr. Knott.
I'll tell you how far you go, not like the superintendent. What's your thought at the board member? You want part of it? Well, I'm telling you, Mr. Blanchard, my address. Mr. Blanchard. Okay, next item. Yes, sir.
I just want to check before we go on, is our candidate, is Mr. Holden here? There was a candidate that called to speak, and put that on the agenda, Mr. Holden Hoggett? Okay. you can go ahead.
Okay, board members request. Mr. Knott.
All right.
Discuss.
I know it's surprised a lot of people by just putting one item. Yes, I do return calls. It'd be very short. Return calls. As a matter of fact, running for school boards, Frederick and I were really crucified on Facebook 4 years ago. You remember that, Frederick? And one in particular, Mr. Floyd Knott never returns calls. And he gave a specific example. About 12 years ago, there was a severe freeze, and my water pipes all broke. And I kept on calling Mr. Floyd Knott, and he never returned my call. No, sorry. He never returned my text. I kept on texting and texting. I could have gotten on Facebook and said, sir, you're wrong. 10 years ago, Floyd Knott didn't even have a phone. He sent a text, he didn't get it. Anyhow, I'm gonna keep my comments very short. I have been getting a lot of phone calls from bus drivers about routes. I've more this year than any other time since 12 years ago, and I'm gonna start my comments to Steve. I think he's been chairman of the Transportation Committee for at least 10, 12 years. Well, 10, 12 years ago, we had a lot of calls, bus driver complaining, and we took, I think it was Ms. Laura Turco took the leadership, and basically at the meetings, we called just about every bus driver, and we set up and put in a binder, every route, every stop, and that was to be the official routes. And I believe it was pointed out that board members by law must approve all routes. So, you remember that, Steve? Yes, sir. Okay, so it wasn't a binder, all routes. Now, what has happened in the last 12 years? We have had less children attending our school, but we've added more routes. And if the bus drivers are correct today, we haven't followed most of those routes that were established. And we as a board, at least annually, we're supposed to approve all routes. And I do not recall ever having done that. So I don't, and now, again, we have less kids attending right now. We have more kids in virtual school. So we should look into establishing, again, new bus routes that are a little bit more efficient. And so that all bus drivers, when they bid on the route, they will know exactly what they are bidding on. Not I thought I was bidding on this one, but I got that one. So that's my comment, Steve. If you want to comment, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm done.
We have a new program where the kids have a magnetic card for their school tag. We were supposed to have it this year, but it doesn't seem to be happening. That way, the bus drivers can't, say, well, I had too many kids on the bus. We need the actual count before we can do anything to change any kind of routes. We can't ride all the routes. I mean, that would take forever. But just as soon as we get the cards where we have an accurate count and we know where the kids were picked up, what bus they ride, what school they go to, all the information will be on a computer. It would be so easy, than going like we used to do, is go ride the route. And, it took a long time. It took almost a whole year to get all the routes, programmed, but we did save money, But with this DSAG, we have M to M's.
We have 8 buses, no, more than that. That's why we got more buses. That's why we have more buses on the road. And it's hard to change the routes when you have MTM buses going this way and, you know, and you shorter drivers. It's tough. It's tough.
I want to inject something in this. I'm gonna just carry on into my topic because it coincides with Mr. Knott. Because it basically refers back to the car ride policies. First of all, most of the parents that are picking up every day are picking up and dropping off every day, so it's consistent. Why don't we get a waiver from these parents stating that they will be dropping off their child at school? Because what's happening is, you know, all you just need to do is look at the buses, half of them are empty. Because if you go around school time, either start up or let out, you have cars out the wazoo, lined up all over the place. And that's where a lot of the problems come in, because these buses going out, they can't get there. So we need to develop, first of all, we need to develop a flow of traffic for the buses just to have their own. Because like at Cecilia Junior High, in the morning, you have the cars and the buses dropping off in the same spot, either the bottom. Cecilia Primary, now that we have the little roundabout, or whatever I call it, the circle, it helps eliminate some. But you have some parents that all of a sudden at 7:45 want to cut across and come, and this is why I put the car rider policy in effect, because I'd like Mr. Boyer to come up with one. If these parents continue to break the rules and try to cut in the line and disrupt the whole thing, that they might have to waive their right of them dropping off their child. See if we can possibly do that. And if we can, then hopefully that'll cut out some of that malarkey. Because the one that keeps on doing it in Cecilia Primary, somebody followed them, they live in Robridge. So it goes to show you, you know, if you want to break the rules, find out where that kid's living and send them back to where they belong.
But take, for instance, St. Martinville. The primary pickup passes on the side of the school, and you gotta go out in front. Well, if there's a long line, they jet across and go to the high school and cut in front of the buses to get out. So that's why I had to talk to the chief of police to have a deputy there. And I told him, write them up. If they doing crazy things, give them a ticket.
But some of the things we need to look at pertain to the buses first, and the main thing I want was the policy. But you gotta have a car ride policy, implement that. Notification that they are not riding the bus. Second, combine your routes. Once we get it, like you said, with the
cars,
thing.
there's no.
And then another thing, like, and I'm sure you can do this in any, Tesh, in the Cecilia area, Tesh is out of town. Have a shuttle back, maybe it's Cecilia Junior High, I don't know, we have a big gym over there. Bring everybody right here, take some of the staff at Tesh, bring them in that area where their kids are gonna be. So I gotta keep buses aren't going way out there just for 3 or 4 kids. So, you know, you have to start thinking outside the box with it. And I think Ms. Pierre has brought that up. You know, her and I talked a little bit about it, and she knows that there's some problems out there. And then, of course, the directing of traffic, you know, because some areas where we have the cops at, they're not too efficient, from what I'm understanding. But, I mean, that wasn't me seeing that, I just heard that. But those things, you put that in place, and you consolidate, and you let those bus drivers who have the kids that are getting picked up at 6 o'clock in the morning and dropping off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, well, let's reverse it in the afternoon. Okay, you're gonna take that and you're gonna go straight out to White Hook Dodge, Mr. Knott's area. So you can drop them off real early so they're not away from that hospital. So just some thoughts, finish with my conversation.
Well, in St. Martinville, we do have shuttles. We have some buses that bring kids to the other schools so they can get on the bus.
Like the junior high.
Bring them back into town.
And I think they have it at Robridge High School too, if I'm not mistaken, or they did have all that.
5 shuttle buses that are full to the brim.
Yeah.
One.
Oh, yes. So how are we doing the routes now? Through J campus or what?
You have existing routes, and they're basically the same routes you've had for a really long time. As neighborhoods are added or people move in and out, you adjust the route. You might add a street.
I understand what you're saying, but how do we do it now? Like, through what? Do we have a system that we're?
We don't have a commercially purchased system. Mr. Darrison might be able to speak a little more to it. Each bus driver submits an emergency card on every kid. beginning of the year. Child or parent can fill it out with emergency contact information. So they have a binder with that information on the bus. Generally, they do a map of the route that's kept in the binder on the bus. It's not, like I said, with a commercially purchased program, it's more old school.
And what's the name of the program that we purchased, the new one?
Oh, the cards?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was purchased with ESSER funds, this is the sonar system. What it is, every student has an ID, okay? So the card has a chip in it when they get on the bus. If they have the ID on them, it's gonna read it. So it'll tell you who's on the bus at any time. It'll give you get a daily report of average ridership. It'll tell you who's on the bus. Our camera system gives the speed of the bus and the GPS location. But this system right here also tells you the speed of the bus. And you should be able to log in and into the program, and it'll tell you where the bus is at. So if a kid gets on the wrong bus, we should be able to search the kid in the system. The problem, all the hardware is mounted on the buses that took place this summer, but the cards are on back order.
Okay, so when you get on in the morning and in the afternoon, you have to scan it also, or just in the morning?
No, when you board the bus, it scans your card automatically.
Huh?
And when a kid boards the bus, they have that ID in their possession, it is supposed to read it. It doesn't have a barcode, it has a chip in the card.
Okay,
So when you pass under the scanner, it's supposed to read automatically.
okay,
So if they board the bus and ride to school, when they get off, it reads it again. So it shows them getting on, it shows them getting off.
okay,
In the afternoon, they board the bus, it scans them, when they get off at home, it scans them again.
okay.
So theoretically, you haven't, the system's not active because we're waiting on the cards.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
But you should be able to get in, and sometimes these primary kids, every now and then want to hop on the wrong bus. So you're looking for them. Well, theoretically, you can get in the system, type in the kid's name, and tell you what bus to go.
Okay,
So you can
so, like if a child is left on the bus, you'll be able to know, or?
if you're searching for the kid, yes. Okay. If a bus driver goes home, the kid's sleeping in the back seat, they didn't get off the bus, I don't know that it's gonna automatically alert them, I'm not sure.
Okay,
If the kid doesn't show up at school and you're looking for him and you type in the name, it might show that they're still sitting on the bus.
okay,
So, with every driver, when they park their bus, morning and afternoon, they're supposed to walk from the front of the bus to the back of the bus and check every seat.
One of the items that needs to be considered, these, and correct me if I'm wrong, aren't these bus drivers getting paid for 2.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 in the afternoon? So a lot of these bus drivers have in their mind, oh, all I'm supposed to do is 2 routes. We pay them about an hour.
that's true.
So that's another thing when we get these routes in together that we need to consider also, because it makes no sense that I'm gonna have a bus route that I'm gonna drop off 20 kids right by school and 20 kids right here. I'm finished within a half hour. And you have kids staying at school until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I know I'm exaggerating.
So how does it work when you have the buddy system, like when another bus driver is taking over a route?
Usually with the buddy system, it's not, the kids are not assigned to just one other bus. Typically what happens, you might, like, let's say the Henderson area, you might have 4 bus drivers or 5 bus drivers in that area. So if somebody's not there, the kids are split among their buddies that drive in their geographic area. So they do get paid extra for running the buddy system. We don't hire a sub and we run the buddy system. Several years ago, the board approved that the drivers that run the buddy system get the sub pay. So if the route is split between 3 drivers, then you divide the sub pay into 3 or 4, however many drivers you assign them to.
I'm just wondering about the kids with the cards, but, you know.
If they're over the cards, that every bus has the same system on it. Okay? So today, if Steve's driving the bus, I get on his bus today, he's gonna show me on his bus. Tomorrow, if I get on your bus and Miss Tina goes to search my name, he's gonna show me on your bus. So they all read the cards the same way.
Okay.
Move to executive session.
Any more questions? So, okay, have motion, second, move to executive session, second by Mr. Forte. All in favor? Any nays? Move to executive session. Aye. And nays, motion carried. Ms. Stacy Pujo.
Good evening, school board members, Superintendent Blanchard, and Attorney Boyer. Mr. Boyer, you might be wanted to answer these questions. As we are all aware, the 2015 desegregation hearing was a public hearing. The 2022 Zoom desegregation hearing was also a public hearing. So why is it all the information that the board discusses concerning this desegregation case is done in executive secret session? Should the public be informed and involved? Should some of this information and involvement have begun 7 years ago before any school was closed? The question on all our minds is, are all of these executive sessions concerning this case even legal? Yes or no, and why? And how much of executive session can be presented to the public audience? Are there laws governing this? And are you actually following those laws?
You want to answer? Sure. I can answer on one,
Okay.
but I'll let the attorney.
And I guess the point that the public's trying to find out is that we were never given information pertaining to our school, but we've been attending all these hearings.
So I'll answer you in general terms because I'm not the attorney with the desegregation case.
Okay.
So, but if you look in Title 42,
42.
in the very beginning of Title 42, there's the open meetings laws.
Okay.
And in there, there's the section after they talk about open meetings laws, there's a section about exclusions or exceptions to open meetings laws. And one of those exceptions is when you have litigation.
Okay.
And so when you have litigation, obviously the attorney has to give, and it's the government ethics code. Obviously, when there's litigation, the attorney has to give suggestions, has to give information, has to give private information to their client, which is the board and Mr. Blanchard. If you were to give that information in public, you would ruin and destroy the privilege that's enjoyed between, and so not only would you get to know the information, but everybody on the other side of the desegregation case would get that same information. They would get our strategy, our tactics, our private information, the information that we suggest to the board members on how to handle things. They would get all the information because we're doing the attorney-client privilege. So that's why that's in that statute. So it's absolutely allowed. It's very specific. There's about 6 exceptions, and that's one of the most noted exceptions. So you hear here routinely every time they have a case, and you look in there, there'll always be the title of the case, the caption of the case, the district that it's in, the suit number of that case will always be located there. Let you know that's what we're discussing.
Okay.
And it's mainly because of the attorney-client.
Okay. So if we were to contact our school board member and ask if whatever was discussed in executive session, what he could discuss with us, can he do that? Not the legal stuff, but
Sure, the board member can discuss things that he doesn't learn in executive session. So things that he knows about other, he or she knows through other information, things that he's gathered through having discussions with other board members, he can discuss those things. But anything that's in the form of legal advice or legal suggestion, he can't, again, because he would destroy the attorney-client.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? We need a motion? Budget. Need an adjourn?